Salut tout le monde. The game is over, but we are here and we have a great show for you tonight. You can see Andrew Berkshire is right here, right there, ready to go. He'll jump in just one moment, but I want to hear what the fans have to say about tonight, because I thought that was a weird game, but a good game for the Montreal Canadiens. They didn't get that extra point, so everyone that worries about the tank, you're happy. Played reasonably well. Some clear deficiencies. And the number one storyline for me, I don't know if there's any Pittsburgh Penguin fans, but Sidney Crosby is still a very good hockey player, isn't he, Andrew?
Yeah, I love seeing the guys my age actually wreck it out there.
The guys, that's the worst part, when everyone's like, oh man, he's 36. He's oldest
guy in the league.
In the history of sports is Sidney Crosby. And yet tonight, 3 points, just a fantastic player. And, I'd feel like he's scored more points. How many points do you think Sidney Crosby has gotten in 47 games against the Canadiens, Andrew?
He has something like 60 something, doesn't he?
62.
Yeah.
It feels low, doesn't it?
It feels low, but I think people forget that for a long time, Crosby specifically in Montreal kind of struggled. He really struggled with the Plekanec matchup. Yeah. And in the playoffs, he's struggled against Montreal as well. So as great as that is, that's Sidney Crosby struggling for like half his career in Montreal.
Absolutely. Okay, so they're saying the stream's a little low. I'm going to pop us up a little bit there just to make sure that we don't break anyone's ears. If it's still a little low on the stream, just let me know and I'll boost the volume. All right, salut tout le monde. Everyone in the chat, we love all of you. Full inclusive, every single one. And if you could, can you go ahead and subscribe and click like and all that fun stuff? The most important thing for us is getting people chatting on social media about how much fun we have. So we're lucky that we have an amazing Habs fan community here. But if you want to share clips or just talk about it, that's the best thing, because for some reason, when I brag about myself, people don't really believe it. So if you could go ahead and do that, that would be great. Jason Wilkinson, so we do have some Penguins fans saying, as a Penguins fan, that was a good game. It's always a fun game between these two. What's up, Andrew?
I love that game. It was like part and parcel of why the NHL fucking makes me angry.
Why? Tell me.
Okay, so the game had a good flow.
Yeah.
And then the refs decide to call a bunch of chintzy ass penalties, completely ruin the flow. And then when it comes time where the pressure is actually applied, they put the whistles away. It's every goddamn game like this. I'm so tired of it. I know you were saying, I saw you on Twitter, Marc, saying the Slavkovsky penalty is a penalty.
All day long.
No,
all day
it's
long.
Not.
That
it's
was
not.
A penalty 20 years ago. If you stop skating and you put your stick in someone's hands, that's a penalty. And it's a dumb penalty, and it's a lazy penalty.
By the letter of the law,
that's a hook.
By the letter of the law, I agree with you.
Yeah.
If that's a penalty, there's a penalty every shift of every game in the NHL.
Absolutely.
Every single shift.
But that one looks even worse, Andrew, because it's when the guy stops skating, the other guy's still moving, right? So honestly,
it was a one-handed tap. He didn't even hook him.
Yeah, he did, and that's the bad part, is that Slavkovsky made it too obvious, right? Like the guy, all he had to do was keep moving. Slavkovsky stops. That is physics working. So a guy just had to do one of these, and that's a penalty. But hey, at least they called Malkin. At least they called Malkin. And did you think they were going to call that? I didn't think so.
I didn't think so, because he got away with everything in that game.
Yeah.
Like, how many times did he slap the sequence where they
Savard
scored the I think it was the second goal. How many times did he slash David Savard?
Like 7.
Yes, and held his stick, took his stick out of his hands and threw it on the ice. And then when Savard finally gets his stick back and Savard like engages with him a little bit, Malkin's like, ugh! Like, oh my God, I love Evgeny Malkin.
Yeah.
But he is so enraging.
Yeah.
He's so enraging.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will say this though, too. The one thing I didn't like about that was Savard doing the old, like, where's the penalty? And I get it, why they do it, but man, the Habs have been doing that a lot this year, and I think the refs do not like that.
But do you know why they do it, though?
Because that's the only way you'll get you really have to really put it in their face and show.
Yeah, you do. And I think that was, he already tried to pick up his stick a couple of times, and it was slashed back down, and he was like, what am I supposed to do here? Mm-hmm. I get it. It does annoy me too when the players are like looking at the ref all the time, but I think also when the standard is wildly different for one team than for the other team, whether it's the fault because like there's two different refs and the back refs call and everything, whatever, it's frustrating for players. So they're human as well. You know, like we talk all the time about the refs being human and making mistakes. So are the players. And I thought the Canadiens were extremely frustrated tonight after that slew of penalty calls. Slavkovsky's, I thought Kovacevic's was pretty damn weak as well.
That one I didn't really understand, actually. I went back and I guess by letter of the law it's interference.
I don't know. It just looked like two guys running into each other.
I didn't even see a push. I thought that was literally like Newton's third law of motion. Yeah, two guys hitting each other. Yeah, that was a bad call. Yeah.
But I did love seeing how well Lars Eller played. That was nice.
You said that, and that's when I asked on Twitter. I honestly didn't notice him, but I was writing.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't.
I thought he was the best Penguin in the third period by far.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, but I've heard some negative things since he's been to Pittsburgh. So hopefully,
I have too.
Yeah.
I mean, last year in Washington, everyone was saying he was washed, and it's around that time for a mostly defensive player. But I liked his play tonight. Really liked Sidney Crosby's play tonight too. The rest of the Penguins, honestly, I don't think they were like. I know they played last night and they traveled last night, but they were very clearly not the better team tonight. The Canadiens took them to the woodshed. Every time that it was an extended period at even strength, the only time the Penguins had extended periods of dominance was either Crosby putting on an absolute clinic or unforced errors by the Canadiens. Caden Guhle on the first goal. I forget who else had like a pass just right into the middle of the slot as well. Might have been Justin Barron.
You're just going with the odds on that one, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Sorry, Justin. It's not meant to be mean, but he has been struggling lately. But you know what, no, Mark? And the other thing is going to a shootout. And I know that like sometimes when it's a long shootout, it's like a little bit more entertaining because there's, suspense to it and everything. But when you go from 3-on-3 overtime to a shootout, it's like you're going to hook up, right? And halfway through sex, they're like, you know what? Let's end it with a hand job. That's what a shootout is.
I mean, wouldn't be the worst Wednesday night I've ever had, but
like it'll finish the game. It'll finish the game, but no one's really that happy.
Would you rather go back to ties?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind ties. I really don't.
I'd rather just do a 10-minute period. I know they'll never do it for overtime, but like just do a 10-minute 3-on-3.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. And I mean, there's one, what was it? We go up to Trizak had a really good comment here. And I'm kind of with Trizak on this, is I feel like every single game we're blaming the refs. But when you say it's
not about wins and losses. They're just terrible at their jobs.
Well, this is it. And Trizak has a really good point. It's how the teams adapt to it and respond that matters. And I agree with that. However, you know what I'm about to say, Andrew. How do you adapt to something that is constantly changing, right? Like I will give you that Slavkovsky call. You can call it 1,000 times in other games, but that's the issue, right? Like he'll get away with it in 3 more games. It is a penalty, but he'll get away with it in 3 games. So how do you adapt to that? Like, how do you adapt?
You can't. Like different refs have different ideas of what's a call, and it seems like in a game, it changes, right? First period is different than third period, and it's stupid the way that the NHL does their officiating. It's not about an individual ref as much as people want to rag on like Chris Lee or whoever. Or I know Leafs fans hate what's his face there who has the funny calls.
Oh,
no.
The guy that, but it was like with Keefe's. Yeah, he shouldn't be reffing Leafs games. I forget his
name.
Yeah,
it is weird, but also
he's not that good of a ref though. I don't know why everyone loves him. It's just because he makes his funny call. What's his name?
Because he goes fighting. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Show one iota of personality in the NHL, and everyone's like, holy shit, this guy's hilarious.
Wes McCauley,
that's the name. Yeah, but I'm tired of all that. It's like this game won't get out of its, not the game, sorry, the league won't get out of its own way. I love this sport with every fiber of my being, but the NHL itself pisses me off. And it's not about wins and losses. It's just about the stupidity, right? Like earlier in the game, we'll call out a missed penalty on the Canadiens. Jake Evans absolutely mashed Sidney Crosby in the face with a high stick. And the refs were like, like you just call it. Like if you're going to call the stupid shit, call the real stuff too.
What if you have, and because it is a fast game, Andrew, we do have to admit that. And again, I'm defending the refs now, and I was defending Berkshire last episode, but like it's so much easier for us to see it, the minutia of like frame by frame, right? How do you solve it? Is it that you have, instead of, because in the NHL, I believe it's like in the last 5 minutes in the playoffs, automatic reviews. What if you have a guy in the booth upstairs every single game, like, or you expand the Toronto War booth? Is that how you fix it? Because I'm really struggling to see. Oh, okay, so you go full rugby style, where you have.
I would have rookie refs. Half of their games are in the stands, and I would hire like 5 times more refs than they currently have. Just a mass upgrade, like a mass hiring. So you have multiple off-ice officials for every game that can speak live with the officials on the ice and tell them if they missed something, tell them if they made a wrong call.
Just like rugby.
Yeah. it would necessitate a lot of people checking their egos at the door, which I think is hard to do. But this is the pros, man. Like we talk, if we're going to relitigate offsides, let's get the other calls right too, without delaying the game all the time.
Yeah, but just don't make sure you don't miss the glass by a quarter inch on your clear, because then you're going to the penalty box. I agree with you, Andrew. I feel like the NHL, anytime it tries to solve an issue, it kind of causes five others. For example, the offside thing. I mean, what it was, Matt Shine was offside once, and now we have to live with the ghost of sadness for the rest of our life because, I mean, yeah, he was 14 feet offside, but that happened once. So I don't want to give the NHL more. I feel like one of their issues, it's the fastest game on earth, all that fun stuff, but once they start to get involved with it, that's where you ruin all momentum, right? So I absolutely get what you're saying. They have to implement it in a way that would be reasonably fast. And I don't know if that's possible.
If you can talk to refs on the ice live, why wouldn't it be fast?
Well, and that's what they do in rugby. Angles? That's what they do in rugby. Okay, so just for those that don't know, rugby essentially, if there's an issue, the eye in the sky will call down the ref, and then it goes live on the speakers. The entire or stadium will hear what's happening. And the eye in the sky will say, hey, look, this is what happened, and this is what we should have called. This was our mistake. We're going to fix it now. Everybody loves it.
Why not? I mean, it just makes sense. I find I'm at the point in my life now where whether it's hockey or politics or anything, when people are like, oh, well, that would be difficult to do. I don't care. Figure it out. Fair. That's your job, right?
That's a fair point. Yeah.
It's like people who say, oh, well, it can't be done. You're a loser then.
Oh, it can be done. I'm just worried.
No. I'm not saying you're saying that.
Putting in the NHL's hands, though.
Yes,
that's what I'm worried about.
But that's kind of the issue with the NHL entirely, right? Well, here, it needs to be torn down and started again. Like
we have a ref in our chat right now. So the Shiren, sorry if I'm misspelling that or mispronouncing it. 1 point to add: referee training needs to happen at minor hockey league level. Yes, the training for refs at every level is terrible, and that's absolutely an issue. So because of all the abuse from parents that are just psychotic and trying to relive their lives through their children, there are very few referees becoming referees, because these are guys or women that are 14, 15, 16-year-old coaching or refereeing 10-year-olds, getting the father wants to fight them, in the parking lot. So there's no one else joining. So it starts
or Tim Peel wants to fight them.
Well, Tim Peel, he does 6-ounce curls every night and then jumps on Twitter. I think we saw that. But the thing is that
you saw that though, right? When he tried to he was verbally berating kids, kid referees.
No, I only saw him say oh, no big deal that Kenville hid the whole abuse thing, get him back in the league. That's when I finally blocked him on Twitter. And I'll tell you this, and I'm not going to say who said it, but you'll notice no referee ever talks to Tim Peel online.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
Not a single one, and they never will. I'm just saying, Tim Peel is an embarrassment to not just the NHL and not just refereeing, but to life. I'm with you, Andrew, and I think the Sharon, and it's really good that we have the Sharon in the chat. It starts at the grassroots level. The training needs to be there, but the respect needs to be there. I really liked the other night, and I know everyone hated it. When the ref essentially said, both the benches, shut the fuck up or I'm sending you to your rooms?
Yes.
And then right away, Forsberg got up and you see the F word come out. The ref was like, fine, you're out. I love that. I love them reinstating their power, but then that means they have to have a clean game, right? They can't start. Yes. Yeah. So
that is the thing. That means they can't do any bullshit either, right? Because if the players are rightfully upset, like Brendan Gallagher so often is, then you can't be like, well, shut your mouth. Yeah, there is a level that you can't cross, obviously, with the ref. Yeah. That's why there's unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Hey, there was an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty missed tonight when Letang fired the puck in the empty net. I've seen players penalized for that before.
What was it?
Yeah, after the play. It was after a delayed penalty call.
Okay.
And Montembeault was out of the net, and Letang got the puck and fired it in the Habs empty net. Yeah.
It's not a Letang thing to do.
He's frustrated.
I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins should be frustrated right now.
They should be 100%.
I wrote to my boss. He was in Montreal, and I was like, hey, man, how are the Habs winning 3-1? This is really embarrassing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it's not I know Carlson gave away that puck early in the game right after I wrote, but Carlson's been amazing for the Pittsburgh Penguins this season. So imagine they didn't have Carlson. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. And we'll get to that, too. We'll talk about Sidney Crosby. 36 years old, just dominant, all that fun stuff. Evan says, Mark, you should say something nice about Tim Peel to even it up. Tim Peel has never been arrested for murder that I know of. That's the nicest thing I'm going to say.
No.
But yeah, so Trizak, another good point. And Andrew, I bring this all the time. I love taking the other. I'm with you. Frustrating refereeing ruins a lot of games. Fastest game on earth, and the refereeing's an issue. But here's what Trizak says. I'll let you come in right after that. I think focusing on the refs tonight is missing the main story. Yet again, the Habs special teams weren't special. Yet again, they had the dagger and dropped it. Yet again, the Habs lost to a tired team. Now, this is the 7th game the Habs have faced someone that's tired, which is a lot, right, Andrew? I feel like that's a lot.
Yes.
And the 7th time
Well,
they've
I don't know if
lost.
it's a lot. I have no idea.
But, 7 in the first 20 whatever games, and they've lost every single one of them.
Maybe a lot? I don't know.
I believe they lead
every single
one of them.
I mean, how many of those were they also on a back-to-back, though?
2.
Oh, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know they had a stretch where they lost 3 in a row to teams that were on the second half of a back-to-back. That's weird. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the special teams weren't great. I think the first couple power plays were all right. Obviously, Monahan scored one there. After that, they kind of fell apart again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Josh Anderson is still on the second wave power play.
I get it, but I don't agree. I don't.
At this point, I don't. I think
at this point, you're right. Yeah, it's starting to be a bit much.
Where Josh Anderson was used in the shootout, I think tells you literally everything. They have no confidence in this player. They're trying their best to get the most out of him. But you mentioned it on Twitter during the game. He's now at a 35% expected goals for.
He's one of the worst players in the entire NHL, like bar none.
Yes. Like, if he can't score, he is literally an unplayable player.
He's an anchor on every line, and yeah.
It's awful. It's awful to watch. And that shootout attempt tonight, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do, but he looked like he did not give a shit. And that's something that hasn't been like the issue for him, I don't think. But if that's actually an issue now, send him to Mexico for a week.
I was going to say, like, I thought you were going to Laval there.
No, not even Laval.
Punta Cana,
get away from the game, man. Go get a tan.
Do a
drink
Bob
a bunch
there.
of booze.
Yeah.
And then come back refreshed and start your season over. Because right now, there is not a single player in Laval that I wouldn't rather in the lineup over him. To see them.
Simon Gignac, sign him to a contract and he'll have a bigger impact. I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to...
100%. Emil Heineman will.
Yeah, and I actually hope they do play him because he does bring that physical side too that Anderson does, but he can also put the puck in the net. I'll say this, when you mentioned like you think he might be broken, they panned to him after, either first or second period, he had like 4 shots in a row where really they weren't the highest danger shots, but they were in a high danger area. And then the last one, he whipped it wide. They panned to him on the bench and he was a broken man. Like he was just sitting there, basically no thoughts going through his head. It's just that feeling of frustration. I get why Martin St. Louis is doing it, but I disagree with it because they would not give this leeway to any other player, Andrew. Like, no, at all.
There's very few players that would get this much leeway. I was actually ironically talking about Ryan Reeves like that with Steve Dangle because his actual goals for percentage. Do you want to guess what it is this year?
For Marc? Reeves?
For Ryan Reeves, yeah.
Probably around Anderson level. It's like 30. I looked the other day. It was really bad. It was like 37 or 38% or something.
13%.
What?
13%.
Oh, not expected. Actual. Okay.
Actual goals. Actual goals. 13%. He is allowing I think it's the second most goals against per 60 of any player in the entire league. 648th out of 650. The only player worse is Matt Coronado, a rookie in Calgary, who's barely played. And he's still going out there. He's played 20 out of 27 games or whatever. So, there's
it could be
players
worse, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but this is still an unplayable player right now. I like Montreal MUFC says with those facts now laid out on the table about the Habs losing matches against teams in the second half of a back-to-back, who should be blamed? Players as bad learners or coaches as lousy teachers? Honestly, I don't think it's a thing. I think it's just random variance
and
the
they're
team
not
loses
that good of a team either. We also have to be conscious.
The team loses a lot.
Yes.
Like this one, did they deserve to lose this game?
No.
I truly don't believe so.
No.
I saw some people saying that Montembeault was really good. I thought he was
okay.
He was okay. He was good in the shootout, I guess, but
no, you know what? No, he wasn't. Every shooter was bad. That's what happened today.
Yeah, that's true too.
I've never seen a shootout, and maybe the chat can correct me on this, that where people were just coming in and Andersoning it on net, just whipping it right on the crest. It was Anderson wasn't the only guy that had a bad shootout attempt tonight, in my opinion. Obviously, it's a little more important for him to get on the board, but I thought Montembeault was just okay. Just okay. The Habs were the better team, though. And I'll say this, okay, Andrew, the next thing I want to talk about, because, Slavkovsky's been the topic du jour. I thought he had a lot of good chances. How long does Martin St. Louis stay patient with that line? I'll throw this at you. Tonight, their expected goals was about 75%. Their shot share was above 65, if I remember correctly. Led the team. They have 0 points at 5-on-5 since they've been put together. Now, this is the epitome of a line that has a ton of potential, and the process is there, but they're not getting the results. How long does Martin St. Louis stay patient, knowing that Josh Anderson was on the second power play unit? So patience is a thing in Montreal.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the big key, right? Is if they break up this line that seems to be functioning in every possible way except for scoring the goals, which we know Caufield is ice cold. We know Slavkovsky's shooting is not great, but it's getting there. He's getting the chances. Then that, to me, betrays a bit of a problem in their philosophy. If they're willing to be patient for Josh Anderson for 29 games now, continually giving him opportunities, Mike Hoffman for 2 seasons, Evgeny Dadonov for like 50-something games last year. Like, if you're giving all this patience to guys that you're maybe putting on the trade block, you better give it to your developing guys. So I'm not really worried that they're gonna split it up.
But I am though.
I'm not, because we've seen the patience, right? Like, if they start getting outplayed, maybe.
They've been outplayed like twice, I think. Maybe
once was sure. Last game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that might be it, Andrew.
Yeah. They've been really, really good together, and I think going forward in the future, because they're playing so well, they kind of have to let it ride, right? Let them develop the chemistry to get that goal scoring going. It is the time to do it.
I agree with you. I remember Nick Suzuki mentioning specifically, and twice now, not just after one game. He mentioned it about 2 games ago again. He's like, I really hope they keep us together. So I'm hoping that Nick, as the captain, he would have no issue talking to Martin St. Louis and saying, hey, listen, I know we're playing well. Leave us here. So it doesn't worry me that much, but I get the sense they won't be as patient with Slavkovsky as they've been with other veterans. And maybe I'm just being negative for no reason because it hasn't happened yet, but I really hope that they keep giving him those chances. I would be putting Slavkovsky on that top power play unit. Now, I understand why Monahan is there. He's really good, but
Slav is 2 now when it's 5, isn't he?
Oh, was he? Okay, I wasn't.
Yeah, he was on the top unit.
Well, I noticed that Suzuki was playing net front presence at one point. I thought that's
because Slav has struggled in the middle, so they put Slav on the wall.
Okay,
and Suzuki in the middle.
I liked Slavkovsky playing net front. That being said, that tip tonight, only Suzuki on the team can get that tip. On the Matheson shot that Monahan put in. So no, I'm with you. It's just the worry for me is that in the long run they'll start to say, hey, like, we need some points. But did you read? I forget who wrote it. Probably Arpin. At one point they were going to send Slavkovsky down to the AHL actually this year, and it was Martin St. Louis who intervened.
Interesting.
Right? I thought that was interesting as well. And it was right around the time where I was saying, hey, man, if you're not going to put him on the top line, what the hell? Let's just get him some ice time. But it was Martin St. Louis that came in and said, I would like to work with him longer. Now, I think, I'm just guessing in that conversation, they also said, well, then you're going to have to give him ice time, right? That's right. The other side of it. But that's pretty interesting, isn't it? That St. Louis went to the GM and said, no, keep this guy up here. That's good.
No, I think that's a great call from Marty St. Louis. And if management then told him to turn around and give him more chances, then good on them as well. Because the line that he was on when that conversation was happening was an utter disaster.
What was it, Anderson and Newhook?
Anderson and Newhook. And I don't think much of it was Slavkovsky's fault, to be frank. And I think he
was lost, Andrew, but it wasn't his fault that he was lost.
Yeah, he looked lost, but he had no support, right? It was a terrible playing style for him. It didn't fit him whatsoever. Just so happens that every line Anderson is on gets absolutely nuked by every opponent.
Weird.
And I think it's borne out that it wasn't on him since then, because his play has taken a surprisingly increase, an uptick in a surprisingly strong arc, right? like I was talking to Stu Cowan and Rick Green earlier today on the HIO show,
Mm.
and I was saying that Slavkovsky's gone from like the beginning of the season where he was, as opposed to last year where he was kind of lost the whole year, he was starting to anticipate plays,
Yeah.
but he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started to get in on plays, and now he's starting to create plays. And it's like to take those steps in the matter of about a month from where he was is really, really encouraging.
Absolutely,
like that's the kind of development curve that the Canadians were betting on when they drafted him, right? Because it was that steep development curve that happened in the Olympics and then into the playoffs in is it still SM Liga in the Finnish league?
It's just Liga, but yeah,
Liga,
SM, yeah.
La Liga is something else.
But here's the other part that, like,
League.
can we be honest that he wasn't like he had 10 points in that Liga season, and he was like a 0.4 points per game in the playoffs. I feel it's like overrated. He's never scored at a high rate. I don't think Juraj Slavkovsky. I think the only time he's ever had a point per game was under 16. Is that not concerning?
Also, maybe. I mean, he also in the
the year where he played Liga in the U20, he actually had point per game U20 that year as well, if I remember. Yeah, okay, which is pretty good. But what
he
about
also
this,
did
then?
it in the World Championships too.
Oh yeah, but
and the Olympics
against Afghanistan, or who was he? Kazakhstan, or who
No.
was he playing against there? He did.
No.
He did beat up on bad teams, but you know what? Everyone beats up on bad teams. That's just how those tournaments go, right?
I mean, Peter Forsberg's record-breaking World Juniors, he put up like 12 points against Japan or something.
I remember at one point talking about Cole Caufield's, and he had a point per game in the World Juniors, and it was Connor McKenna was like, oh, why didn't you should have gotten 15 points? And I was like, okay, if you would have gotten 9 points versus Germany, would you have been much happier? So yeah, we do have to be careful. But here, I'll throw this at you, Andrew, to play devil's advocate again. Juraj Slavkovsky is on pace for 20 points this year.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's bad. That's terrible. That's historically the worst.
Well, it's not historically the worst.
Well, for a first overall
players.
there, I'm pretty sure it's the worst ever historically. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta kind of remember that he missed the second half of his first season, right?
It was a write-off.
So where he is right now is
that was a write-off year one.
Really. 100%. So like right now he's at like what, game 70? Or maybe not even that.
39 last year. And he's at game 68.
So
Next game
yeah,
will be game
he's not
69.
that deep into his career. So like his first 68 games, I believe he's outproduced Joe Thornton. So
fair. Joe Thornton was outproducing him beforehand, though, right? Like that's the other part is that he had a history
as
of
a rookie.
No,
Yeah. It's totally different. I think that's like I don't expect Juraj Slavkovsky to be like a point per game player at any point in his career.
No,
I expect him to be like
that's fair.
A 25-point, 35 assist guy at his peak, or 25 goals. Sorry, 25 goals, 30, and that would be good. And just a power forward who drives play, contributes in all situations.
We're seeing him do that.
That's what I expect him to get to.
That's the encouraging part. Yeah,
like he can get better than that, sure. But I think for the people who are like, oh, like terrible first overall, like. Yeah, that draft was a weak first overall
one of the worst drafts. It's funny because the Kotkaniemi year too was one of the worst drafts. That I'll be honest, and I don't love defending the Habs, but they've gotten terrible luck when they've gotten high picks. Let's be perfectly honest. Even the Galchenyuk
they really have.
And
Galchenyuk, even that, like they got pretty lucky that year. In retrospect, it's just that they bottled it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then they bottled Kotkaniemi. I feel like. The fears, at least from you're doing what you did to Kotkaniemi and Galchenyuk, are kind of dissipated a little because he's on the first line. So at least there's that, right? Like that's. Yeah. I just don't know how long it'll last, Andrew. I'm honestly worried that it. As Bernardo Sunier is saying. So Andrew's saying that Slavkovsky will be better than Joe Thornton. Yes, that's exactly what he said. Yeah.
I've compared Slavkovsky to Michael McCarron and Joe Thornton this year. He'll end up somewhere between those two players. I'm narrowing it down for you all.
I was so happy to see Michael McCarron playing yesterday. I don't know why, or not yesterday. Whenever it was Sunday, I was really happy to see him on the ice. I just want to throw that out there because a lot of these players, especially things pressure in Montreal. Speaking about Slavkovsky, it can lead to some dark places. So he got the help he needed, and it's a good reminder if anyone needs help. It's out there. Start asking for help, and you're not alone. So Michael McCarron was a really good example of that. I'm just happy to see him smiling and playing hockey. You know what I mean? Because at one point in Laval, he stopped smiling, and that's a really bad sign for hockey players. Juraj Slavkovsky 100%. Has not stopped smiling, right? So I feel like he has that attitude that he can get through this. But if he didn't have that strength of character, the Habs might be in a worse position. Like they really got a good one in terms of overall confidence level and just strength of character in Slavkovsky.
Yeah, he seems like a good kid. I'm really not worried about him anymore. The finishing is the last thing, right? I think that's
never going to be great though. As you mentioned, like like this is a guy, and I'm not trying to be mean, but he still doesn't lift the puck. Like if he could lift the puck, he'd have about 12 goals this year, right? So
yeah, I think the question with that is like, is it because his shot is bad, or is it because
he's in tight? He's in those areas where it's tougher to get it. Yeah,
there's tightness, and I feel like he's also overexcited. Yeah. Like if you watch him on his shot attempts, especially like one-timers and stuff, it's almost like he starts to shoot before the puck is there, or he'll like double clutch and then shoot too late. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that's just timing, right? Like mm-hmm. It'll just get better with age and maturity. And we have to remember that he's 19 years old. I don't think he's ever going to be like, I think some people thought that he was going to be like a 40 goal scorer when he was drafted. I think his playmaking is better than his shooting, like significantly so.
If he can start to create time and space, like, and he's doing it already, if that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where we're going to see him, is he's going to be a big forechecking, playmaking winger that gets his goals once in a while. Mm-hmm. Not a super consistent goal scorer, but he's going to put a lot of goals on Cole Caufield's stick.
I want to see how many shots he's taking, because that's the one thing I always got. I mean, his mom got onto him for that. His shot rate was actually down this year, and that was a little unfortunate. But then it crossed my mind, if you're playing with Cole Caufield and you're Juraj Slavkovsky, you're going to defer. You're going to defer.
Yeah, he is deferring too much.
And that's a young guy thing. That's just what they do. Yeah, I'm going to go check his shots this year real quick there. What do we got?
Yeah, so Slav, I'm really encouraged by the development over the past month or so here. I think you can't expect that level of development to continue on that same arc, right? Like there's going to be plateaus every once in a while. We say all the time development is not linear.
Never.
But if this is how he develops, where it's like flat and then spiking up, then eventually the next time that things flatten out, maybe we can expect another spike at some point. Like the point production is going to be the last thing that comes for him. Right now, everything else is looking good.
So before he got promoted to that top line, he was shooting at about 3.5 shots per 60, and that's actually down from last year from 5. And that 3.5 shots per 60, for those in the chat wondering, that's nothing. Like that's a terrible amount of shots. That's a shot every 3 games, right? So now he's actually up to 5 shots per 60, which it's hard to actually move up that quickly. So that's a good sign. His individual expected XG per 60 is doubled since last year. His high danger chances individual has doubled since last year. So if his shooting percentage was where it was last year, he'd have more points than he did. He'd be on pace for about 40 points this year.
Hey, that's not too bad. Second year,
Habs?
19-year-old.
That's like third overall scoring there. Yeah, absolutely. And someone in the chat mentioned it. Where was it? That if Caufield had put a few. Oh yeah. The Sharon says, I mean, once Cole figures out his slump, the top line should get going and running. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's another big part of it. I'm not worried though about Cole Caufield. He's getting his chances.
Nor am I.
This is exactly what happened under Schaum, and I always try to warn people. They're like, Schaum ruined him. No, listen. Saying we got a little lucky that Caufield scored so much when he got there, and Schaum was unlucky that it wasn't just Dom Schaum that ruined his shot. Now the development part was bad, but it wasn't Dom Schaum's fault that Caufield didn't score on his first 200 shots of the year. So
but I mean, he was playing him on the fourth line.
That
was the big thing. But I think like whenever we're talking about Slavkovsky, we've got to like remember that the Canadiens can't score as a team, right? Like their defense can score, their forwards can't score.
Hey, they're tied with Colorado for first in the entire NHL for goals from defensemen,
which is really weird because I feel like they don't have a ton of amazing offensive defensemen or anything. But when Kovacevic is out there in the slot, he's gonna rip shots home.
I think that's St. Louis been telling them jump into play though. Well, let's be honest. I don't have confirmation, but I get the sense that's a Martin St. Louis type of
100%. And you saw that tonight with David Savard of all people. And hey, Jaden Struble, my God.
Okay, good. I mean, that's who I want.
Before we move on from Slavkovsky though, I just got to say, because Leafs fans, for whatever reason, absolutely
they've been weird as shit, man. They're weird.
so weird about Slavkovsky. I don't know why. Maybe they're actually afraid of him. I don't know. It's weird. It's like they see another fan base having some modicum of a good time, and they're like, no, you must be miserable like me. But like, listen to the way the Leafs fans talk about Matthew Nyes. The dude's playing on Austin Matthews' line, and he's got 6 goals and 5 assists in 25 games. I'm sorry, but if that guy was playing in Montreal, he'd have 2 points.
Maybe.
If that.
Maybe.
Like,
I'll say this. It's because I post a lot of GIFs. So the other day I posted, I wrote, haha, Slavkovsky pins the puck under his foot, then sent it out to Suzuki, who had a great scoring chance. And I wrote, not bad. Like verbatim, not bad. And then it got picked up. What's the name of it? One of them's like Make Believe Leafs or something. Anyways, this guy's
Jake Beliefs.
Sure,
there's a bunch
they all
of
look
really
the
dumb
same.
ones.
They all look the exact same. They all have an Austin Matthews avatar with sunglasses, and they're like, "How fucking dare you say that was a great play?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't. I said it was not bad." And then that Jeff Veillette weirdo, who he's just like shitty towards francophones all the time, so he has a thing against the Habs. But then he starts saying like, "Oh yeah, they were saying he should be in the Hall of Fame," and I'm like, "No, I said that, and I'm the one who posted. I never said Hall of Fame. I said not bad." So this like fucking tumbleweeded into the Leafs just having this circle jerk about Habs fans being so happy about Slavkovsky when again it was not bad. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
It's like they're really weird about Slavkovsky. It's really
I
weird.
think Habs fans are legitimately happy about Slavkovsky right now because it's in reference to what it was like at the beginning of the year or what it was like on the Anderson Newhook line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this huge change. Like, yeah, I'm really happy with how this kid's developing because everyone has started to realize that this isn't a first overall guy who maybe should have stepped straight into the NHL. This is a long development path guy, a project, as the Canadiens said. And now they're seeing this project start to do things that are going to produce points in the future. And they're like, hey, let's look at that. Let's reward this guy because let's face it, Canadiens fans as a fan base, and I get on Canadiens fans a lot because I deal with them all the time and have been for a very long time. And in online spaces, people get angry and, you get the worst of the worst in your mentions. But Canadiens fans as a fan base are more attentive to details than most other fan bases. So they're seeing Caufield, or not, sorry, not Caufield, Slavkovsky pick up the little things and they're appreciative of that. But I haven't seen a single Canadiens fan out there being like, oh man, this guy's going to be a superstar. It just doesn't exist. So this boogeyman, dumb Habs fan that Leafs fans like to pretend exists.
Well, that's the thing is that they invented, like, it's a hilarious way because they invent something and then they get mad at what they invented.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like that. Oh, and somebody told me Steph Curry can't shoot threes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. When, again, if you go back to the source, it's not bad. Literally, that's exactly not bad. It was just a fun play. But that being said, I have a tons of Leafs fans that I respect, but there is a really weird contingent, as you said, that are like weirdly obsessed with it. And they did the exact same stuff about Cole Caufield. Like, literally the exact same stuff. So it doesn't surprise me in that sense.
There was a huge contingent that were saying that like Nick Robertson would be better than Cole Caufield. It's like, okay.
Now here's the fun part is that I remember when I was working for the Habs and the whole, because they got so cocky when they were up 3-1, and then I saved so many posts because I was going to put them on the Habs Twitter account. We had a fun thing. They all got deleted. So when I go back and I check those they're all deleted. So it's I don't get it. But here's the fun part, Andrew, is if you respond, they're like, oh, you're mad. And you're like, no, man, I'm like, really?
No, Marc, rent free. Rent free.
They're the ones that get weirdly obsessed by Slavkovsky. So I will say this, Andrew. You know what it reminds me of? It's when kids in elementary school can't really express their emotions and they start tugging on girls' pigtails. That's what it is. Yep. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that behavior is shouldn't be normalized.
Well, we can move on and let's talk about real quick.
Well, before we move on, we should tell everyone, please like this.
That's what I was going to do it, Andrew. I swear to God.
Oh, shit. But you always tell me you never do it.
So I was going to do it, though. You're right. No, go for it.
Please like the stream. Subscribe to SDPN. We're closing in on 100,000 subscribers here. And once we do, we get more effective YouTube partnership. So it really helps the whole company. So, hey, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps us out. And if you like the stream, well, definitely smash that like button.
I can't believe you said Slavkovsky is going to be in the Hall of Fame, though, Andrew. God damn.
Yeah, Hall of Famer, better than Austin Matthews, so like without a doubt.
Oh my God.
Like, especially when playoffs come around. That I might actually be serious about.
He'll be fun in the playoffs. Now I want to talk, and we'll get to the third segment because we got a ton of people in the chat, and Bernardo just brought it up. Jaden Struble.
Man.
What about like? And this is what I meant to say, because at one point everyone was saying, "Oh, Jackie's bad defensively," which that's not true this
Not
year.
true.
And they're saying Struble's really good defensively, but I was pointing out, like, it's not his defense that's great. It's his ability. Yes, it plays into defense because it's puck retrievals and quick passes. His impact is offensive. That's where Struble really shines. And we saw a tiny bit of it, but that play tonight, Andrew, it reminded me what he looked like at Northeastern. And as soon as he got to Laval, you noticed his overall play was better than Northeastern because he didn't have to worry about all the offense. In fact, if you're playing on a team with Logan Mailloux, you really have to worry about the defense, right? So he wasn't really playing into that part, and his overall game got better, but it's still there. So now that he's getting more comfortable, Jaden Struble, man, you can't send him down. You just can't send him down at this point.
He cannot go back down to Laval. He's too good. He's just way too good. Like, and it's not just about, the offensive production or, being good defensively or whatever. It's everything combined. He has found his fit, and he is an NHL player. I love the way he surprises guys. That when you look at him with the puck out there, he looks like a small defenseman, right?
Yeah.
He's only 6 foot, which is undersized in the NHL.
He's the smallest Habs defenseman. Other than Jordan Harris, I believe, is 1 inch smaller, but yeah.
Yeah, and when Jordan Harris comes back, he'll be a little bit smaller. But you see guys and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna wreck this guy on the forecheck," and they bump into him, and he's just like, "Not today." And then he just goes out with the puck, and he has a little bit, like, I'm not comparing skill level, I'm not comparing effectiveness, but he's got a little bit of that Subban where he just puts out his arm and he's like, "Not you. You're not allowed to touch me today."
It's like Dave Chappelle in that clip where he's just
going through the
not
club.
Today.
Yeah. It is awesome. And the fact that he has the confidence to make those jumps into the rush already.
But he's building it, right? Slowly. Like, he didn't just come out and just, I was going to say blow it. He didn't come out and just, throw it all on the ice right away. You're seeing that every game he's getting more confident.
Yeah, he's really, really making an impression on, it seems like, the whole fan base, right? He's making himself into a fan favorite with his ability to just be calm, right? He just doesn't panic. I wish Justin Barron could have some of Jaden Struble's calmness. And he would go from like a potential number 4 to a potential top pairing guy. Like, that's how much better Justin Barron would be if he had the maturity level of Jaden Struble. And, maybe he'll get there one day, but right now I really like this kid, and I'm so happy for him that it's gotten to this point, because I heard so many naysayers about Jaden Struble that said the same similar racist trope of like, "Oh yeah, he's a great athlete, incredible body, but got no brain." He very clearly has a brain, and it's a very good hockey brain.
He actually has some of the best vision. Okay, because I've actually had my doubts about him, but it wasn't the classic like quarterback, "Oh yeah, he's really mobile." I was actually worried that his offense wouldn't translate to the pros, right? Because he was taking advantage of just being stronger than everyone in the ice at Northeastern. But the whole thing about his vision is probably better than everyone not named Goalie and Mike Matheson. So I don't know about the whole intelligence thing. I like some guys you'll automatically pick as cerebral, and I'm not like, for the Owen Becks. I would say Struble's right up there as well. I don't know if it's the first thing I'd say about him, but I hate that when, especially black athlete, like, "Oh yeah, really mobile but not a great thinker." Like, oh my god, that's like, that was bad in the NFL in 1988, and it's bad now. But Jaden Struble has played within his means, and he keeps bringing up one level. So he's been so smart about his own development. He's not trying too much. But once he gets comfortable, then he tries it. Man, that's the epitome of a smart player in the NHL, especially a rookie, man. That's a smart player right there.
And how many defensemen in the NHL have a better first 2 goals,
right,
than Jaden Struble?
And that's
like, his first goal that's a highlight reel goal.
Absolutely. And that's what I was talking about, that we hadn't seen it yet. He did that in Northeastern all the time. Now, he had to, right? At Northeastern, like, he was the guy, especially once Harris was gone. But that should be happening more often. Like, I'm telling you, Struble has more to show us, but he's just giving it little incremental improvements, and it's fun it's like a little amuse-bouche there, game by game, and we're seeing just a little bit more from Struble. So I don't worry about a guy like him, just because the way, it's not just the plays, the way he's using his skills on the ice is very, very smart. So that Like I guarantee you, the coaching staff right now is like, wow, we don't really have to coach him, and that's huge for them as well.
Yeah, 100%. He just seems more ready than I ever would have expected.
Yeah, well, he
You know,
spent a
like
lot of time in college too, right? Did he do his 4 years or just 3?
I think he did all 4, or maybe he did
Or
3.
it was Harris that
I
did
don't know.
all 4? Well, I'm checking right now. Yeah, he did 4 in Northeastern.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
him
long
and
time,
Harris
man.
both did all 4.
So that's and there was worries that he wouldn't now. Harris, there was worries that he wouldn't sign either. Harris
Yep.
always said he wanted to play 4 years, and studies are really important for the Harris family. Struble, they weren't sure, but I'm telling you now, from here on in, we never have to worry about guys signing out of the NCAA for the Habs. As long as Kent Hughes is there, not going to be an issue. And I heard that he's been trying to maybe get other guys to drop their teams and come, but we'll see how that goes. But Andrew, like he's on pace right now. Can I do this math without? He's on pace for about a 12-goal prorated season.
That's not bad. I don't think he'll get there.
No.
That's a lot. But if he can pop in even like 6, that's really impressive for the defenseman that he is. Trzak nailed it really here. He says so far Struble's best game has been his next game, and that's been true.
That's a really good line. We should get
ever
Trzak
since
on
he got
that.
called up.
That was really good. Oh, I actually got the math right. Yeah. So he's projected right now on a 64 game, 12 goals and 6 assists. He's not going to get it, but that's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. And as you mentioned,
if you flip him around, he might get it.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 goals, 12. That would be, hey man, for a first year, that would be absolutely great. And as you mentioned, nice. Like him joining the Rush for sure. That's the type. That's what St. Louis mentions all the time. That's what he wants. And with Struble, how many times has he been caught up ice so far, Andrew?
Maybe once or twice. He's always getting back in it.
Is there? Because I was gonna say maybe one to give myself some, but I don't remember one. Yeah, actually, and there was one bad pass against Nashville.
Yes, yeah, there was. But I mean,
that's a Baron per night.
Everyone's gonna make a mistake, right? Like, look at Caden Guhle. Like, he's in a bit of a struggle right now, right?
This is worst stretch that he's had since he started playing. That's fine.
Yeah, and he completely caused the first goal for Pittsburgh. It was
I'm gonna say this:
error.
Crosby is still a force out there, right?
Yes, Crosby's a force, but
yeah.
Caden Guhle had the puck unpressured behind the net, and he got bottled it.
He got barrened.
He did get barrened, and I know it was pointed out in the chat earlier. It was Kovacevic with the second one that happened, but after that, Guhle recovered really well. He had several really big defensive plays throughout the rest of the game. Really like that. So players will make mistakes, right? It's about what they do after and how they make up for them that makes the big difference.
And even Goalie, if you look at his numbers, like they're still not going to be great, but they're leaps and bounds ahead of where they were last year. So really good in terms of his overall development. And as I mentioned last show, it shouldn't be, and I was happy at least tonight, one mistake by Goalie usually sinks the entire boat. And that's not because he's bad. It's because he's that important, right? So it was good to see at least the Habs not necessarily lose because King Goalie dared have one bad shift, right? So yeah, absolutely. It was a fun game from him as well. Okay, I think we're going to jump into, well, Kay already started it. So there we go. We're going to jump into some fan questions. And before we do it, make sure to like the stream and subscribe and all that fun stuff that we always ask 1,000 times over. We're here after every game. So if anyone's listening on the podcast, we really appreciate you. Our podcast numbers are going up and up. Share it with your friends. We would love it. Come join us during the games. We have an awesome community of Habs fans. Great people, open-minded and supportive. We always have a lot of fun. Kay is here. Kay missed a few games. I admitted it. I'll admit it. I was worried. She caught up with them, and she even sent me a message the other day. She's like, wow, Laurie's a really good guest, eh? And that was my, yeah, absolutely. Laurie's a really good guest. Usually I get a little annoyed when it's, oh, your guest was really good, not you. But with Laurie, what am I going to do? She was amazing. Question for the presser. Should they break up Guhle and Barron? Both of them are struggling right now. What do you think?
Because they looked good together before, I would let it ride until Harris is back. And when Harris is back, if Barron is still struggling, I think you scratch Barron for a little bit. Maybe you send him back down to Laval if he's still not waiver eligible, and let him get his confidence back because he's a good player. You know, we've seen what he can be, but he has these stretches where he struggles, and Guhle's similar, but I think Guhle's struggles are exacerbated by Barron's struggles right now, which I'm not blaming entirely on Barron because Guhle has definitely struggled, but we all know Caden Guhle is a significantly higher value player than Justin Barron.
I will say this. I say you keep them together because have you noticed, and we haven't always been the nicest to David Savard in this show.
Shit, has he ever been great?
Oh my God.
2 games back.
What a difference between him and Gustav Lindstrom, eh? Like
Holy
miles of difference. Mike Matheson looks like Mike Matheson of old.
David Savard looks like Mike Matheson right now.
Right?
Like slower, but he's getting it done. I wish they would have put him in the shootout, man.
That would
Can you imagine?
It'd still
the
be going
ovation
to now.
Like people stood up for Josh Anderson, willing him to score. If they would have put Savard out there, that entire arena would be on their feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree with it. What we're seeing is Mike Matheson's a little less afraid too, that if he goes for a little stroll, which is important, you're gonna have someone back there. Like, and again, I don't want to blame Gustav Lindstrom because there's absolutely no way he should have been pushed into the top pairing in the NHL. Can we just admit how crazy that is that he got pushed into the top pairing? Absolutely not. But
it's Savard, a real weird decision.
It's okay. Martin said he loves his left, right. He really does. And I think at the time you couldn't say Kovacevic deserved it, so I get it. But David Savard's been really good, like really, really good. So man, I'm happy to see it. I'm really happy to see it, and that's a big deal for the Habs to have a good top pairing.
It is a huge deal, especially if it can take some of the tough minutes off of the younger kids, right? And give them a bit more support.
Mm-hmm.
And when Matheson plays as well as he's been playing, the team's significantly better.
I was noticing that today, yeah.
Just to quickly circle back before we take the next question there, Mark, I looked up because Natural Stat Trick is updated for tonight's game. The Uri Slavkovsky, Cole Caufield, Nick Suzuki line together has a 56.8% expected goals for percentage. They are expected to score 3.09.
You're talking about like all time there?
Yes, this season.
That's the best line. Even that's like Doc numbers when Doc was on the top line.
Yeah, that's like Gallagher, Tatar, Deneau numbers.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were a little higher, but those
were
silly.
Closer to 60%.
Those were silly numbers. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are silly numbers. Hey, man, I don't know if Martin St. Louis loves the whole idea of analytics because he kind of had a bit of a cold reaction to it at first, but the Habs have people that can explain it pretty quick. Like coaches don't have time to go through these numbers.
No, yeah, he actually. He talked this earlier this season about analytics, and he seems like he's warmed up to it significantly.
Yes.
It helps to have Chris Boucher there because he is very good at taking analytics and putting them into actionable intelligence that you can use game to game. That was what his job was before he came to the Canadiens. So that's what he's there for, essentially.
It needs to be easily digestible, and I think that's what you're having, right? Because if you just throw a shitload of numbers, he'll be like, okay, this doesn't matter. But you say, hey, if this guy... By the way, your change that you did last night, this guy played much better because of it. Like, stay with that. So I feel like I'm getting the same impression. He's warming up to it right now. So for sure, and he gets these every day. So he knows that line is playing well. So I'm really hoping they stick with it for a little longer. Okay, which would you prefer? the chat has a few suggestions. David McCarr, Kale Savard, or Cavid McVar.
Cavid McVar.
Cavid McVar is pretty good, eh?
I'll go Kale Savard.
Kale Savard just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I like Cavid McVar. That's a pretty good one there. Luc Boulian mentions, I had a good friend called Marie-Ève Boulian growing up. I don't know why I threw that in, but Caufield is awful. I don't agree with you there. I'll say, defensively, he's actually been playing really well, and we saw tonight.
Yep.
One of those shifts, and it was weird because ILDS isolated it and they were shitting all over him, and I'm watching. I'm like, this is a great shift. It was the one where it ended up with Slavkovsky got that chance up tight. He pushed Peterson off the puck. Good forecheck. He was circling, going to high danger zones. I will say right now, I am not worried about Cole Caufield whatsoever. It's not a Josh Anderson thing. Like he's playing well, and he's not a drag on his team. So I get it. He needs to score more goals. We can't keep saying it's fine. This is a guy that's making, 7 point something million this year? Is that it, Andrew? 7.8 or whatever it is?
Something like that.
He needs to score, but I'm not worried, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you want to see the goals go in, but I think we have to remember this guy had shoulder surgery last year.
That's part of it, too.
There's probably adjustments that he'll need to figure out to get the puck exactly where he wants it under pressure, like he was for the year and a bit that he was with. That he was under Marty St. Louis, right? Like there's going to be an adjustment period. He'll find it. I would still bet on him scoring 40 this year.
Eventually,
he's gonna figure it out and go on an insane heater. Like last season, he was literally top. I think he was top 3 in the entire NHL in 5-on-5 goals. It was the power play where he was.
That's the weird part is that he lost his 5 on. That's why I'm not too worried, Andrew. Is I know the 5-on-5 is there,
and he's putting up more scoring chances from closer to the net this year than last year. So like, it's gonna happen.
But it's not worried. He's a streaky shooter in the sense that Trinka mentions it's not like it was under Sham. Well, it is actually, again, not the development. It's just that he was just not scoring, and he was still putting up a ton of shots. So his shot rate's the same. I don't worry too much about Cole.
But he was shooting from further out under Ducharme because he wasn't playing with players who could get him the puck in the right spaces.
But they did Sport Logic. I don't know how accurate it is. They're saying that he wasn't getting to the slot as often this year. From my mind and from the numbers and from I watch every game. Don't forget, every single highlight, I clip it, I see it, I save it, I edit it, I put it on Twitter, so I see every single highlight 4 or 5 times. Cole Caufield's getting to the slot. I don't think that's the issue. I like they said that it was they had fewer chances to the slot, but it was per 60. So, anyways, I'm not worried about Cole Caufield. Is my whole stream, whole point of this basically.
Yeah, 100%.
Bernardo asked if the Habs get celebrating next year. Oh God, that would be do they try to compete for the playoffs? I think at that point you got to go because one of the other fun parts when I was talking about Slavkovsky's numbers the other day, 15 minutes ago, one of the reasons, and this kind of dawned on me, like, man, maybe they forced him in the NHL because they were thinking about the entry level contract, because you have a guy that'll have a potential that you'll be able to sign him pretty cheap, right, Andrew? Like, he's not going to
his next contract's not going to be expensive.
And that's right about when the Habs were about to compete.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was just galaxy braining it, but I'm like, man.
I mean, I remember talking about that when he was in the, like last year, my preference was that they put him in the AHL because it would slide.
Yeah.
Right. But if they think that this is going to allow them to sign
2 full years,
yeah. Or if they can end up having him sign a longer term contract where they bet on him a little bit. Yeah. But he makes like $5 million.
I was going to say
6 years.
I was going to say Hughes might even pencil him down a little bit, but yeah, you have to give him some juice there,
Yeah, if you're giving long term, right? If you actually believe in him, you have to give him a little bit. But I'm thinking like the Gallagher contract, but Gallagher had already proven it before, right? His last contract, it was a crazy steal. But I don't know. It always, whenever you're planning that far ahead salary wise, it's like, who the hell knows what could possibly happen? It's kind of like if you're trying to play 40 chess with that, it could really bite you. Yeah. But who knows? I saw Kay pointed out here, and it's something that I noticed as well. Christian Dvorak, his shootout attempt. What did you think when he rammed into the goalie, which I don't think was on purpose in any way?
Actually, someone, I believe it was Jack Colborn, mentioned that turns out that Nedeljkovic bit his tongue.
Oh, was that what it was?
I thought it was because he kneed him real. It wasn't Dvorak's fault. It wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't think it was his fault either, but I didn't like his reaction when he saw the goalie was hurt. I don't know if he thought he was faking it or what.
Oh, I didn't notice. Did he just, because I have to clip, I'm going and I'm editing it and I'm throwing it back on. What happened? Did he not hey, are you okay? Or was he giving him the bird? Or
he looked back and like skated away. Like he.
No,
like,
you do that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you do like, is he okay? Like you kind of look over, like it's not a big deal, but kind of bothered me a little.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's the same. It's kind of like when, again, going back to the Evans thing in the playoffs with the Jets, the only guy I really respected after that dirty hit was Nick Ehlers, because he's the only one that actually checked in on him.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Endless respect for Nick Ehlers.
Oh, my God. Yeah, absolutely.
A good sportsman.
Jack will say Slav's going to sign a Nick Paul type deal. Nick Paul, you're talking about like when he went from the Sens to the Tampa Bay Lightning? What was it, like 4.5 or something?
I think it's even less than that. I thought it was like $3 million.
You know what, Andrew? I still go to capgeek.com.
Cap Geek? You mean Cap Friendly?
Well, that's you're Googling me. You're playing the role of Google right now, but I always still go to Cap Geek.
Nick Paul is 3.15.
3.15. Yeah, I think that would be okay. First of all, Julien Brisebois, I know it sometimes backfires, but he has a lot of good ideas, and that's one of them. If you go to like 4.5, it depends on next year too, right? That's the other part.
Yeah.
But if Slavkovsky finishes the year with like 35 points or whatever next year, you're looking at a guy.
Well, I was thinking like 35 this year, say like 45 next year.
Yeah, then you're going to be about like 4.5 to 5 million, just because he has that first overall, and that's, you're talking about almost doubling his points. Yeah, so you'd have to pay. Either way, it's going to be a pretty good contract. So to get back to the question, Macklin Celebrini, in my opinion, and I'm going to say it again, I'm sure I'm wrong, he's not that far off from Connor Bedard in terms of talent. Now, defensively,
he's excellent.
He's a bit of a mess defensively. I'm going to say...
I mean, Bedard's not that great defensively right now either.
And Macklin Celebrini is going to finish his only year in the NCAA as a 17-year-old. He's never going to play in the NCAA as an 18-year-old. Like, not one game. I missed the last Boston game, but he's going to finish with, what is he at, like 12 goals right now? Okay. He has 10 goals and 15 assists in 15 games as a 17-year-old. That is not just unheard of, Andrew. It's like blowing the lid off. And Macklin Celebrini is exactly who the Habs need, but they're not bad enough to get Macklin Celebrini this year.
You know, they might be. With all the injuries, I will say that if they end up with Macklin Celebrini, the Doc injury will be seen as the biggest stroke of luck, because the way that this team is, the way that they play, the way that they keep themselves in games that they really shouldn't be in, and the above average goaltending that they seem to get almost every night, I think they would be way out of the conversation if Doc was still there. Like right now, I think they would make a
huge difference. Let's be honest. Yeah.
It's probably the most impactful injury in the NHL.
I feel like they've only just adjusted to Doc being gone, and it was at game 2.
Yeah, it took a while, but I honestly think if Doc was in the lineup, this team would be like very close to a 50% expected goals team, and at even strength. The special teams would still be a huge issue because they were a huge issue with him.
Doc was going to play a big role on the special teams. Damn it,
that's true too. But Suzuki would be less worn out, which it'll happen at some point this year where he'll get worn out. But like all these things, Monahan would have less pressure on him, right? Like a lot of issues that are happening right now would not be issues with Doc in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I'd actually even, with the way that Buffalo is just a perpetual pit of sadness, even though I always pick them to make the playoffs, and Ottawa is just epitomizes failure. The Habs would even have a shot at the playoffs a little bit with Doc, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I will say this though. The reason they got Kirby Doc on the cheap is he did have a history of injuries, right? Now they did want to get rid of him, and this injury was random, but when you go get guys like Doc and Newhook and Monahan, you can't be all that surprised when they get injured, right?
I guess. I mean, the Doc one was pretty...
It was random.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky, right?
But we're talking about he's never finished a season, right? Like,
sure, but he's also, what, 22?
He's very, very young, yeah.
So,
but he's gotten, but still, 4 years, out 4 times. I don't know. I would just say he would have cost a lot more if he was a healthy player, is the way I look at it.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So it's part of it.
He played, what, 70 games his last year in Chicago? He was just not good. Yeah, so I don't know if that was an injury or if he was scratched. It was an injury, and he hasn't finished a year yet. But I'll say this: as much as I'm saying like they got it, and that's good. That's what you want to do in the market is you want to get guys that are it's market inefficiency, right? That like essentially, and Chicago did it to be bad as well. But I'm not all that surprised. Now I would still go out and make that trade 10 out of 10 times. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Well, as Nick mentions, Ottawa's +5, Habs are -22 in goals. Yeah, and I'm sure Ottawa should be.
That's going to bite them.
Ottawa should be so much better than they are right now. And I'll say
so should Pittsburgh. So should Carolina. So should New Jersey.
What New Jersey needs? You know what Carolina needs?
I'm serious. Look at New Jersey's defense, and they have no veterans that are like good defensively. They've got a lot of young.
Simon Nemec is like their best defensive defenseman right off the bat.
That's not good.
No, I know.
I know Dougie Hamilton's probably pretty good defensively too. Not defensively in the way that I think most people.
But they need a goalie. They need a Habs goalie.
Look at him. Habs goalie too. So Allen and David Savard to the Devils for Nico Hischier.
Oh, or Nico Hischier. Yeah, sure. Why not?
No, I mean I do think that Savard to the Devils is a very big possibility. They're a team that has playoff aspirations. I think he could really help them in a role that's not as big as Montreal. And man, with the way he's playing right now, like I wouldn't be surprised if they actually get something decent for him. Not like the Sherratt trade, but something decent.
I still just think that it's crazy that no one's moved for a Habs goalie yet. Like right now, Allen and Primo are still top 30 in the entire NHL for goals saved above expected. New Jersey has the third worst save percentage in the NHL. Carolina has the second worst save percentage in the NHL. Edmonton has the fourth worst save percentage in the NHL. I understand the point. You make a really good point that defense is what begets good goaltending, but it's silly to me that there hasn't been a trade yet for a Habs goaltender. Like, I just don't understand. Yeah. And all these teams have cap space. The Habs can take guys back. I'm worried that Kent Hughes is just I got to get a second for Jake Allen. If you get anything for Jake Allen, and I'm not trying to be insulting towards Jake Allen, you make the deal. You make the deal. If it's a 7th round pick, you say, hey, throw in a B prospect, it's done. So New Jersey in particular, I really feel Vanacek.
Well, they desperately need goaltending too. You're right.
Vanacek has been just like gross merde there. He's been so bad.
I know. I follow a lot of Devils fans just because a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago had a lot of Devils fans friends. So I ended up becoming friends with them. And a lot of them are putting the goaltending issues on the goaltending coach. Because this is like the 4th straight starting goaltender that has just fallen apart at the seams under the same guy. Yeah.
Speaking of which, who's the new Habs goalie coach that took over from that guy who got arrested for beating his wife? No, Burke.
He was never the goaltending coach.
He was the advisor.
Yeah.
When you can add a wife beater, anyways. But who he's doing? The new Habs coach has been goalie. It's not who is it exactly? Someone mentioned it to me the other day. And he's not getting the credit he should, because when Stefan Waite would take credit for Carey Price being good, I would roll my eyes a little bit.
Always.
In this case, because he honestly, but Primo and Allen and Motabo all being top 30. And this is guys that don't have a ton of starts, don't have a consistency. So yeah, I'm really happy with that's going. Bernardo mentions
Eric Raymond.
Eric Raymond. Yeah, Bernardo mentions you can't trade Kale Savard. It's true. We forgot we can't trade. Our all-star defenseman and Goliath's foe. It wouldn't be an episode of Game Over without Marc trading a goalie. I get it, and I have no defense for that, so I'm just gonna take it. I'm just gonna accept that one.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, I'm gonna ask you a question, Mark. 2025 rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
Is Sidney Crosby wearing a Pittsburgh Penguins jersey? Because I don't think he is.
You know what would be the worst scenario is if we hear the old he's gonna retire as a Hab because he does want to. Like he's talked about this before.
Yep.
And so many
whispers
guys
are out there.
Mm-hmm, and so many guys have mentioned it where I'm like, just va down, because it's usually francophone players trying to get another year from someone else that they're using the Habs. Let's be perfectly honest, it's happened a lot. And as a proud francophone, it bothers me a little bit. Now, Sidney Crosby, not a francophone, but he loves the Habs. You know what would be the worst possible scenario, though? If the Leafs come in and swoop him in at the last second to add that last piece to the Stanley Cup.
No, it'll be either Montreal or Colorado. He'll either go play with Nathan McKinnon or he'll play for his boyhood team.
That's what I heard as well.
I have a feeling that this is something that Hughes actually has been keeping his eye on. And I do legit think
I heard Avs too, though. I heard Avs too is very strong possibility.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But I do wonder if, in 2 more seasons,
Crosby at 38, eh?
Yeah.
Is my top
Crosby
power play
really?
Still, yes.
No. I'm not questioning if he's good, but I'm like, are the Colorado Avalanche in a cap situation where they can bring in Sidney Crosby? Because
I assume he'd be signing a sweetheart deal, though.
Maybe, but a sweetheart deal for Sidney Crosby is probably still like $7 million.
He should have been making $15 million his whole life there. He should have been making the max. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be
basically. I'm saying the Canadiens in 2025, 2026, Sidney Crosby,
Macklin Celebrini, Sidney Crosby.
This is what I'm saying. Get excited, folks. This is a guarantee, just like I guaranteed Bedard.
And you know what would be even better if somehow Ovechkin and Crosby decide $1 million each. Let's do the Paul Kariya, Teemu Solani thing in Colorado. That's what they need.
You know Ovi would want to play here, but I think
he'd love it. Yeah.
Ovi in a couple of years, I'm not sure you necessarily want him on your team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jack, who's as a Haligonian, which is such an amazing name for people from Halifax, eh?
Oh, it's a great name.
People from Ottawa.
Is it quite as good as the name from people from Moose Jaw? Moose Javians?
Moose Javians? What about Dildo, Newfoundland? What are they called? Dildodians?
Dildons?
Dildons? Ottawa, do you know what people from Ottawa are called? Pretentious. No, do you know what, seriously, do you know what the name is for? It's Ottawans.
Ottawans, yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, it's not great.
No, not
I
great.
like how Montreal has one for English and one for French.
Montrealais, Montrealers? Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah. Ottawa. Yeah, no, you're right. And from Gets No, you're called a Gino Gets No. So anyways, as a Haligonian, if they hit the pubs with the same chemistry they would on the ice, the league is fucked. Yeah. I've heard all sorts of stories from NHLers going back, but I will say this. I heard all the stories about Crosby and McKinnon. I only hear bad stories about a certain Brad Marchand. So it's funny how there's a lot of parties out east, and Brad Marchand is always the guy that's standing on tables, shirt off, peeing on the carpet. You know what I mean? So yeah, I wouldn't be worried too much about that. But Sidney Crosby in Montreal would be amazing, man. That would be. It's just a shame that it's not at his peak. And man, they came one ball away from drafting him, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, they were close. Although, you know what? Even if it's not at his peak, like Sidney Crosby.
Oh my God. He'd still be.
I don't know if he's ever going to be bad. Like, he just strikes me as the guy who might play hockey like as long as Jaromir Jagr.
Yeah.
You know, he's not just going to disappear one day and fade off. He's going to play until he feels like he's not elite anymore. And then maybe he'll hang it up. But physically, he's just such a machine. And he doesn't get injured anymore, really. Like,
yeah, well, Evan brings up a point. Like, will the Avalanche still have the pieces? Probably. Like, it's true that they're right in their window, right? But 2 years isn't that far away, and so many things can change in 2 years as well. The other day, or just yesterday on Twitter, people were saying, "Hey, what will the Habs look like in 4 years?" And everyone had people from the current roster and prospects. I'm like, look at any single team. 4 years later, half the team is gone, if not more.
Yeah, it's just unrecognizable. The cap world is just a different space. You know, it's like what I've been saying a lot this year, that it's going to be a tough situation for fans who get like really emotionally attached to players with all these players that the Canadiens have on defense. Because already we've got a situation where Jacques Guy's in the NHL, Jordan Harris is injured, and a lot of people like every single defenseman who's currently in the lineup to stay in the lineup.
And they think all the prospects are going to make it, but they won't.
Well, and some of them won't, but also like a lot of them already have, to a point that's like more impressive than what should have happened, right? Like, it's really only Norlinder who's fallen off from the group from like Bergevin's draft picks, right?
But like out of Engstrom, out of Mailloux, out of Hudson, and
I know which one of those isn't going to make it.
Lane Hudson, right?
No, he's going to be a cornerstone.
Here's the fun part. Do you know why Macklin Celebrini is going to dominate the NCAA in scoring this year?
Because Lane Hudson, clearly.
Big time. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. Man, we had a fun show tonight. Last question. This comes from Trizak. Monkey's Paw. You get Crosby, but you need to sign his best friend, Jack Johnson. Done.
In the American Hockey League.
No. He's got to play too.
Nah, this has got to be Jack Johnson's last year.
Is it?
It's got to.
I'm still not sure who's Jack Johnson and which one's Eric Johnson, if I'm being perfectly honest. No, Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson's not in Colorado anymore. I think Jack Johnson went back to Colorado.
Okay.
But that only happened for 1 year in Pittsburgh, and then they realized it wasn't going to work. 2 years.
It's just, it would be, and as who mentioned the jersey sales, as Bernardo says, man, it would be perfect for him, and that would be the type of little fun advantage. The Habs never really got that fun. Like the Leafs got Brian Leetch at the end of his career, Eric Lindros. I was looking the other day, like Lindros had a pretty good year with the Leafs.
He was damn good.
And then I believe he got another head injury. But yeah, the Habs, it'd be fun if we get some of it. Like when Pierre-Luc Dubois this summer was talking about it, I was doubting Thomas. Like, I want to see it. I want to see it to believe it. Now, he really did want to come. But if he really, really wanted to come, Andrew, he could have made it happen, right? So I'm a little jaded.
If you really wanted to what there, Mark?
If you really wanted to
I know we were
come,
talking about handies earlier, but
if he wanted to come, he could have just let everyone know that Montreal is the only place that he wants to come. Okay. All right.
Deshirin says, I would buy a Habs Crosby jersey 100%. Yeah, I think every single person in Quebec would buy a Habs Crosby jersey. It would be such a moneymaker. It'd be unreal.
It's to the point that, like, I didn't go to the game tonight, and I was talking to some people, media, and they said, "You're not going?" I'm like, "No, why?" And they're like, "Oh, I got to go see Sidney Crosby." And then I clicked. I'm like, "Yeah, that's really important." Even remember our good friend Julian last year or the year before he went to Calgary, he's like, I need to come see Crosby at the Bell Center. I've never seen it. So yeah, it's huge for everyone. Fans love it. And I'll tell you, he got booed a little bit tonight, but he gets cheered, you know, when he gets introduced. So yeah, absolutely, Sidney Crosby would be fantastic. Hey, as Kay mentions at the end, No Nut November is over. And with that, we will come to a classy end of the show. Saturday, you're on Saturday, Andrew?
Yeah, with Laura from Locked On Canadiens.
Ooh, love. Ah, man. Okay, damn. I was gonna ask Laura on. I was gonna say we haven't had her on in a while, so a little bit jealous and a little bit annoyed at that. But maybe I'll get Scott on the next show, and then we'll just shit talk you guys the whole time.
Let's do it.
All right. So as Kay mentions, No Nut November is over, and Game Over Montreal is over as well. Before we go, make sure to like the chat, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'm gonna do the same thing I do every time. Thank you so much, honestly, everyone. Here we have Ian, we have Trinka, we have Trizak, we have Claire. Hi, Claire. The Shirin K, and we have a whole bunch of people that have joined us this year. Montreal MUFC, Jean Simard. A bunch of people have just joined the group, and tell your friends we love having all of you here. Basically, Goliath Foe as well knows all about my trades. We wouldn't have a great show if it wasn't for all of you, and I really, really mean that. So we're really lucky. Andrew and I are so lucky that we have such a strong support group, and we wouldn't get up and want to do it if it wasn't for everyone. So thank you so much, and we will see you on Saturday. Andrew will be hosting with the amazing Laura Saba, and no, Squirt Matla, it won't be on, but I'm gonna see if I can get Scoot Matla on for a game after that, as Evan says. In the meantime, that's all. Thank you all for joining Game Over Montreal, and I'm gonna go ahead and say bye, Claire.
Game